many immigrant cultures want to, at least during the earlier parts of the 20th century, the idea was to come to the New World and assimilate your children as much as possible so they could then make a living in the New World, in the new language, in the new and I believe that some cultures have done a better job of letting that happen and still not losing your background. And I may be wrong, but I think a lot of the Jewish cultures came in and were speaking Yiddish in the house, and were very much about don't speak Yiddish outside of the house. You know, this is what we're going to do here. And then there were the people who were doing what my mother and grandmother did, was speaking Yiddish so we wouldn't understand. It was a great secret language. And at the same time, people grew up with not understanding what their parents were talking about. I didn't resent it. There were a lot of people that grew up resenting the language simply because it was the language that was going to keep them from what the parents were talking about. And some people, people do different things. Some will then go ahead and learn the language so they can speak, so they can understand what's going on, which is what I did. And my parents were thrilled by it. And then the other people that said, no, we don't want you to speak this language because we want you to have a better life. People were changing their names. They shouldn't sound so Jewish. People wanted you to go into a secular life so you wouldn't be marginalized, and then you wouldn't sound so Jewish. There's also a lot of guilt attached to Yiddish as a Germanic language. And so after the Second World War and the Holocaust, look at the decision that was made for the language of the State of Israel. And there are a lot of different stories. Who knows what is true, or maybe they're all true. But when they were coming up with a language for the State of Israel, a lot of the people who were there already and a lot of people who were moving there already spoke Yiddish. And there was a decided movement that said the language of Israel will be modern Hebrew. And at the time, and that was years before the Holocaust. So when the Holocaust came, it was, well, we don't want to be speaking a kind of pidgin German. We want to speak the new language. And the new language, the modern language, was now going to be Hebrew. And with that new modern state of Israel, it's now 1948, the new state, it became not just the land, the Hebrew is the language of the land. Hebrew now becomes the language of the Jewish people. And I think that Yiddish became marginalized and forgotten and very much pushed aside. This is the language of slavery. And rather than being slaves to this Eastern European language, the Eastern European countries, look how they all turn their backs on us. The resentment, it was something that you couldn't even articulate anymore, but you could articulate it in this language, and this gorgeous culture suddenly died out, which is it's like letting the enemy win. And we always talk about, well, you'll let the terrorists win when you take away our tourism, when you take away our this, our language, or this. And I think that's where the klezmer movement and the Yiddish movement comes back in, because now we're saying, I'm going to take it back. This is going to be the weirdest story. I was once doing a performance of kids in Yiddish, and it was at some event at the Jewish Museum, and I had these cute kids, and I had them in these bright yellow t-shirts that said, I heart kids in Yiddish, because they're bright and they're yellow. And we finished this performance, and I'm waiting at the bus, and someone says to me, well, why did you have, just at the bus stop, like someone I didn't really know, but remembered me and said, I'm a little upset that you had yellow t-shirts. I said, why? She said, well, they're yellow t-shirts, like the yellow stars. You shouldn't have the children in yellow t-shirts. And people are thinking, they're bright and you can see them. And I just stopped for a second. I said, I'm taking back yellow. Yellow is no longer the color of oppression. Yellow is the color of the sun. Yellow is the color of a free day, and I'm taking back yellow. So that's where I'm taking back Yiddish, and we're going to send it to the next generations. Now there are a few generations past where the survivors are.